This is a short video to show the finer points of taking a bearing if memory maps. Might be used for example, taking a smoke sighting from your current location. And if you get 2 or 3 of these, even better. You should be able to triangulate and locate that smoke sighting exactly. But even one bearing can be useful because it can draw a line on the map which shows where that smoke sighting should be, which can cut down where you need to be looking. So I'm standing in the middle of a quarry oval in the middle of the cricket pitch roughly, and I can see a communications tower, which I'm just going to use as a test reference point, but it could be a smoke sighting. So the basic process is that you get your GPS out, you allow time for it to settle, you can see up there in the box in the sort of right hand screen to the top, it's saying GPS accuracy is 4.7 meters, 5 meters, which is about as good as it gets. So as soon as you're at that point, what you can do is push the target button, which is the icon at the bottom of the screen, the third icon from the right, which will put your circle over your current point. And then if you drop a flag, a location will be in the middle of that flag. Sometimes I drop a second one for reasons that you'll see in a little while. But basically I'm just going to do one so you can see why I do the second point. But once we got that flag, that's our location. So a bearing is from a known location, and then it gives us a bearing from that location. So if we click on the flag, we can see that's point 23. Normally I encourage people to do the red drop down to get the menu and edit the mark to create a name to avoid confusion. So I'm going to call it cricket pitch. Just so that when you're trying to figure out what marks are, you've got some description. You can put more description there and as needed. But in actual fact, the way I'm doing this is going to become, that description is going to become a little bit irrelevant. That's a point. But what we want to do is take the drop down, the drop down menu, and then it's sort of not completely obvious, but basically we want to create a route which enables us to draw a line. If you click anywhere else, now we've done that on that map, the flag changes to a blue point. We click anywhere else. I'm going to click to the south, and we can see another point, and now that's it's called a route. So it's they've given it some random numbers. You can change the name, and it's route point 23.2. Now, if we use the below that point, if we use the green directional icon, click on that, we can move that around. Now, notice as we move it around, it gives us how far we are away from our original point, and it gives us a bearing. Now, important, so as we move that around, if I go directly south, it's like 180 degrees, as you can see, which is what we expect. If we sort of go north, it's zero degrees. Now, I picked the tower, the comms tower, as an example. I've taken a compass bearing of 89 degrees to the... so you pull out your compass, take the most accurate compass reading you can. If worse comes to worse, you can use your iPhone, but your iPhone I wouldn't encourage. A proper compass will be much more accurate. So again, I took a bearing of 89 degrees. Now, if I put it over those comms towers marked by the green point. So we're, roughly over that. It's telling me 102 degrees. So, if I made a big mistake, 13 degrees is, quite a lot of error. But what I want you to notice is the T at the end of that, and hopefully you remember your nav, training, and then hopefully at this point you're kind of going, hang on, there is a difference between magnetic and true. Or grid. Now, this being a computer application, although the lines are drawn on the maps, we got the benefit of being able to do true because the computer can. So we got to make our adjustments. So here in Dural, it's around the rough rule of thumb to a magnetic bearing is, and you've got to go the right way. But in Dural, I use, I encourage people now to use MGA as an acronym, so magnetic to grid add. So in here, rough rule of thumb, we're not using grid here, we're using true. That's about, if MGA in Hornsby would be 12 as a rule of thumb. So to the magnetic we add 12. But this is true, so there's an extra degree of variation, so 13. So if we take our magnetic as 89, which I read on the compass, and we add 13 to that to get a true, we can see 102, so that all adds up. So with that, effectively, we can take a line. In this case, we knew the point, but if it was, say, a smoke sighting, we'd probably be doing this because we're trying to figure out, where the line is. We can, so I can extend this. I've got two options. I can do the maths as I've just done there for you. With memory maps, we can also tell it that we want that bearing to be in magnetic. So in the bottom right-hand screen, there's an arrow which goes to the other screen, and there's the cog icons that gives us a menu. So in there's units. So we want to change the units, and if we look at the options there, there's two ones that are going to be important to, RFS type navigation activities, and that's the position format to change the GPS position, whether it's lat long or UTM or something else, and the bearings format. So that's the one we want to use in this case. So if we click on bearings, and we've got two options. True north, as we can see, is displayed, but if we click on magnetic, that'll change it to magnetic bearings. So when we go back to the map, we see that bearing, it looks like there's a bit of a bug because it's still saying the true, the true bearing. But if we just grab that and just, move it, we can see it flicks over to M, and we can see we're on 89, and, happy days. So if you're looking for a smoke sighting, you've probably got a rough idea of the distance, but you probably won't know exactly. So, I tend to, go out here, extend it out as far as you think you need to cover it. And then when we look, we can kind of go, that smoke sighting is on that exact line. For triangulation, it's just a little bit more. And if we've got somewhere, and I'm just going to do it very quickly, say we've got another point, somebody's standing at this location here, and, they report the smoke sighting at, I'm just going to make some stuff up. So we click on the icon. We can create the route again, and it changes it to a blue dot. You've just got to know to click anywhere on the screen to create the second dot. Let's say that they've seen the smoke sighting at 0 degrees, or let's say 0 degrees. So we move this round till we see the bearing saying 0 degrees. And there we go. Now we've got a point where those lines intersect. Assuming we've done that accurately, that'll be the exact point of the fire. So we can then zoom in on that point, and we could see the property maybe that we've got to enter for this fire. In the real world, taking bearings on a compass is not, 100% accurate. So it might not be exactly there, but it'll give you a fair idea. But you can then, if you need to communicate this to other units, it's a bit hard to, they could do the triangulation themselves if you give the, locations they've been taken from and bearings and so forth. But, a sensible way to do it might be to just create another flag, as I've just done, which is the flag icon in the bottom of the bar, fourth across. And then we can move that flag to sit directly over that point. Once it's directly over that point, we can use the drop down and edit mark, and we can see a position format. Now, obviously I've got this position format in lat longitude, and I suggest marking these points, fire, done. Now we're in the RFS, so lat long will mostly not be used. The exception is possibly, aviation likes to use lat long, but we like to use UTM because that works better on our maps and the distances we work at. So what you can do is go back, go to the other screen, bottom right hand icon, the cog in the center middle, click on that for options, and you can change the units. In units, what do we want to change here? I just look at these and sort of figure it out, and if I'm a bit rusty, sometimes I click on the wrong thing, but, basically it's position format. And in the RFS, we probably use UTM with bands, which is that option there. We go back to the main screen with the left arrow in the bottom left-hand corner. Then we can click on this flag again, and then we can use the drop down and edit to have a look at the mark, and we can see the UPM position format. Anyway, hopefully that gives look, I should add, a lot of people in the RFS will say that to get an accurate bearing, you really need 3 points. I'll quickly cover that. It's not strictly true. You get an idea with even one bearing. If you get 2 good bearings, that will be exactly right. But the reality is when you're taking compass readings, it won't be, completely accurate. So, this one might be, it'd be, completely normal for this to be, a degree or even 2 off. When we do the same for this one, let's sort of, put this a degree off or 2, couple of degrees off. We can see we're not on the fire. But, again, usually it'll be close enough. But what they'll teach you in RFS course is that they want, it's better to, they call it triangulation. So they like having, 3 bearings. So let's quickly do that. We'll drop a pin over here. So there's someone up at this location. They take a bearing, and we do a route. Now I'm making this up on the fly, but, let's say they arguably take a bearing at 45 degrees magnetic. As you can see, their bearing taking is a little bit out, but we can see if we measure it here, it's actually 50 magnetic, but it really wouldn't be surprising if it was a couple of degrees The point of the RFS AF navigation coin and why they like to take 3 bearings is they can give you a nice simple story that, you know, the fire should be within the triangle that that line, you know, that triangulation creates. In fact, it's not, you know, 100% strictly true, depending on where the error happened to be. You know, if this bearing happened, I've continued taking a, you know, I've clicked a link which enables you to continue the waypoint, but that's for something else. I'm meant to click on that dot. Say their reading was out the other way, you know, we can see in actual fact the fire actually isn't in that triangle because, you know, that reading was sort of, you know, out the wrong way. So the fire can still appear outside of the triangle, but the bottom line is the more bearings you take, the errors will tend to average themselves out, you know, more or less. It doesn't always work, but that's the idea behind 3 points. Anyway, I hope that helps, and yeah, get out there and do some navigation.